The dogs are not allowed to be on the carpet or in this L. The rest of the time they can come and go, but not when we're eating. When the dog wants to go outside the door, we go to the door and we tell the dog to sit once. If he doesn't sit, I walk away from the door. Wait 1 minute and then go back to the door. If you wait at the door, you're waiting on the dog knows you're waiting on them. So go to the door and tell it, and as soon as the dog hits the floor, we open the door and let the dog out. But if the dog doesn't, we walk away first time for 1 minute, then 2 minutes the next time, then 4 minutes, then 8 minutes. We keep on doubling the length of time. The only time we don't want to do this is if the dog's going to have an accident. At first we do it going out, but then eventually we do it both ways. And if we're going out on a walk, we're going to have the dog sit at the door and we're going to go out the door first. I showed the guardians a little exercise. I put the dog to sit at the door and then I open the door kind of slowly, and the dog gets up because it anticipates going outside. I close the door, tell it to sit again. Do it slowly, and I keep doing it slowly until the dog stays seated while I'm opening it slowly. Then I start opening it faster and faster. And this is going to be over the course of several walks. But eventually, the dog, no matter how much that door opens, I'm not allowed to go out. And we have a door dasher over there, so this will help the dog learn not that I can't just sneak my way out the door. Let me see, other rules we went over: not being allowed in the kitchen when the humans are preparing food or when the other dogs are eating. Let me see, not being allowed in the furniture we covered. For the bed, since the guardian really wants, well, I guess we didn't cover the furniture in this, we're just doing this video a second time. The first video, the furniture, we're not gonna, if the dog gets up in the furniture, we say off once. If the dog doesn't get off, we put our hand next to the dog, firmly push to the edge, or tell the dog to get off, and if it gets off on its own, that's what we prefer. If it doesn't, we're gonna force, kind of push it to the edge so it feels like it's teetering, it's about to fall off. It will jump off on its own so that it regains stable footing. As soon as it does, we reach over and pet it and say the word off, so we create a positive association with that. And after a month or whatever the period of time is, then we can allow the dogs in the furniture if the humans decide they want, but with an invitation only, and only for good behavior. So the dog's up here and then starts barking, you have to get down. Now, we went over that faux command about teaching the dog to bark. I'm not going to go through that here because that's one of the things you have to hire me for, but make sure you say that command word when the dog is doing that action, and then eventually you'll be able to say that as a command. We used a command for the dog bed over there, so we said beach. We use the treats, so make sure you do that. And have a different dog bed for each room that you guys hang out in for your house as well, and give it each one a different name, so you can say Venice, or Cabo, or beach, or mountains, or whatever it is.
I have a question about this when we're done with the video.
Okay, and let me see what else. We also went over petting with a purpose. So petting with a purpose is basically, right now the guardians were petting the dogs anytime the dogs jump up or nudged or barked at them. So they're demanding attention, and the humans are rewarding the dog, because anything a dog is doing when you pet it is what you're rewarding. So if what we do is we're just saying, hey, if you tell me what to do, nothing happens. But what if I give you a counter order, if he was nudging me, I might go like this. Sit. And then I pet him under his chin. I'm just going to say the word sit. Not good sit, not the dog's name, not good boy, just sit. And not sit, sit. Yes, I know that was weird. So the more that we do this, the more we are practicing petting with a purpose in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the basement, in the hallway, in the car, all over the place. So they get used to doing it in different locations. Makes it easier for them to do that. Also, sitting is a more subordinate position, almost more respectful. And after a while, what will happen is the dog will come and sit in front of you to prepay for attention. When he does, make sure to recognize and pet and say sit. Or we're going to say paycheck if we come in and we suspect somebody's forgotten the dog's standing and somebody's petting it. You can pet the dog as much as you want. You just ask it to sit or lay down or do something first. Then you pet it for hours after that, even if it gets up out of a sit. But it has to either follow a command for yours or prepay for it by coming and sitting ahead of time. And then we say the command word. We also wanted to use passive training. The dog does not come very well, one of the dogs specifically. So I recommend that we change right there. You pet and say ask. Right now, yeah. He just put his chin on her knee. And so if every time he does that, we pet him and say ask. Eventually, if you say ask, he puts his chin on your knee. That's kind of a cute command word. So let me see. We're going to use passive training, especially for here. For the dogs, one of the dogs does not come. So every time that it comes to us on its own, I'm going to lure him here. This is how I lure. It looks like I have something in my hand. You see how well it works. Put him in a sit. Sit. But if the dog comes on his own, come. I'm just going to pet it. In this case, I should say here. So anything the dog does that is a desirable action or command, right here, crash. He laid down on his own. I just rewarded and appreciated him doing something I want him to do. And the more I do that, the more he will be inclined to do that in the future. Petting with a purpose and passive training are the two easiest things that you can do if you get in the habit of doing them, because every time you pet your dog for the rest of your life, it's like a mini dog obedience training session. Okay, what else did we go over? We went over the dog bed. We went over the 5 rules for the structured walk. Message me if you forget what those are. We used the martingale collars with a special twist of the leash, and it stopped the dogs from pulling. So remember, go up real and go back really quickly. Dog can't go in front of you, and message me if you can't remember the 5 rules for a structured walk. Also, we're going to go through the video that we have above, practicing leashing the dogs up multiple times a day without going for a walk. And the only way that we're going to do it is if you stay, first of all, behind the human on their way there, and it's in a sit once I get the leashes out and start attaching. So by achieving a calm, balanced state of mind inside the house before we leave for the walk, that's the energy we're going to have. Let's see, what else? We went over a focus exercise. Remember the focus exercise. You're going to have about 12, 15 treats here, 1 here. The dog licks and moves your hand. Don't move your hand. Don't move it. Don't say no. Don't lure it. As soon as the dog looks up at you, you raise the treat 4 inches in front of your nose, and then go straight towards the dog's mouth. At first, it's 1 second, 1 second.
Off.
Then it's going to be 1 second, 2 seconds. And let me back up. 1 second for all 12 treats. Then the other guardian would do it 1 second for each dog. So each dog's going to get 12 treats twice a day. You could split these in half for the little dogs. But eventually what will happen is the dog's going to be looking at you for longer and longer. Then you can go 1 second, 2 seconds on the second movement for all 12 treats, and then the second time for all the dogs. Then maybe the next time we go 1 second, 3 seconds. Eventually 1 second, 20 seconds. Now we can also start doing it, once the dog has 20 seconds, we might start doing it with the TV on with the dog barking, or the mail truck going by, other things that the dog's going to react to, but we have to do it very gradually. We want to gradually build up the intensity of the distraction and help the dog practice the behavior we want in the easiest setting. Then we gradually make it closer and closer to a real world setting, step by step, and we help the dog practice each step, and we don't move to the next step till the dog's proficient with that. Then we go to the next step, and that's putting the dog in a position to succeed. I'd also like to see the guardians training the dogs some new commands. Go to YouTube, look up, or Google easy dog tricks. And then maybe 1 week you pick a trick and you teach all 3 dogs the trick, and then you practice it all week long. When you're watching the dogs, you practice, but vice versa. Then next week you pick a trick and you teach all 3 dogs. Do this for each of you, pick 4 of them. At the end of 2 months, by the end of 2017, the dog should have 8 new skills that will help with their self-esteem. And the more that you teach them, the more they respect you and look at you in a favorable way, because you help them build more self-esteem and confidence, and it's associated with you. Positive reinforcement. That's why the benefit of petting with a purpose and passive training, we're rewarding dogs for doing things we want. They're using the dog bed now, and they weren't before because there's more status on the couch. But if we're going to take the couch away, now that becomes a more desirable option. We also went through a structured feeding. Remember, the dog should eat in the order of their rank, and that means the human who is feeding should eat first. We're going to put food in all their bowls. They eat 1 at a time. Remember to use passive training. So when each dog takes his bite, come up with words. I say grub, chow, and feast. You can say whatever words you want. When that dog takes the first bite for about 2 months, we're going to say feast. So after 2 months, every time he hears feast, there's food in his mouth. It means go eat food. To the other dog, feast doesn't mean anything because when they hear it, there's no word in there. There's no food in their mouth. Also use the escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted actions and behaviors, and always start with your hiss unless you're feeding. Then go to the second one, then the third one, then the fourth one. The fourth one, I didn't actually go over, is what I started doing with one of the dogs earlier. 2 worked up, so I put him on a leash, and I stepped on the leash, just giving him just enough room to stand or sit. The more a dog moves around, the more aroused or worked up they will get. So if we just simply keep the dog stationary, we can help them settle themselves down sooner. Now remember, everything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you are rewarding. So if your dog is jumping up and you pet it, you're training it to jump up on you. It's jumping up on the window over there. We're training it. That's the way to ask me to do it. So the more that we pet with a purpose and do passive training, the more the dog is going to do those things to get our attention as opposed to things that we don't want. Because now we're paying attention to when we're providing affection. Also use, don't walk around the dogs, work through them. So dogs need to learn my job is to defer and get out of the human's way. Also, always follow through. If I tell the dog to sit, and instead of sitting, he goes and gets a bone and goes lays down, and walks away, I would get up and follow him. He needs to understand that when the human tells you to do something, the human's willing to stop what they're doing to get their way. So follow him. If he goes around the table, move the table to the side so he can't keep going in circles. Eventually, if he goes behind the door, close the door behind you. Finally, he finds himself cornered. Then I bark out the original order, sit. Once he sits, then I turn and walk away. So this way he understands that when the human asks me to do something, they're willing to stop everything. And after a while, the dog will start doing what you want faster and faster because they understand that you're going to get your way anyways. Might as well do what you want. We'd also like to up their exercise. We went through the 5 rules for a structured walk. If you forgot how to do that, let me know. We used a martingale with a special twist of leash. It really gave a lot more control to the walk. I think upping the dog's exercise, right now they're only going to walk 3 or 4 times a week. We'd like to see that every single day, preferably early in the day. If you can get the dogs proper exercise, that's going to help. Two of the dogs like to get rambunctious and they parkour across all the furniture at night because they have too much energy. So if you notice that's always happening at 9 o'clock, then at 8 o'clock it's time to take them out for a half an hour walk, burn that excess energy, because they're just trying to release the energy. They're going to release it one way or the other. You can do it in a constructive way, or they can do it by tearing up pillows or running around the house or whatever it is. All right, well, I'm probably forgetting some other things, but I want the guardians to call me or text me if you have questions, because I can only help you if you let me know. And if I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great.